As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, mothers, let's go down, come on down. Oh, mothers, let's go down in the river to pray.
Good afternoon. I'm Mayor Ken Marshburn, and it is my privilege and honor to welcome you to the 11th Annual MLK Celebration. As you might know, this year's event is being presented in virtual format as we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King. I want to, first of all, commend the MLK Committee for their leadership to ensure the continuation of this important event in spite of the unique challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. History reveals that Dr. King was no stranger to obstacles and challenges that confronted him on almost a daily basis. His perseverance and dedication to the cause of racial justice and civil rights continue to inspire many today during a time in our country when so many are on the front lines of the same noble causes. He did not give up or give in, though he suffered persecution and derision and physical danger that eventually cost him his life. I urge all of you who will see and hear this presentation to reflect on your own life and your role and responsibility to keep his dream alive. We can all strive to heed his advice when he said, and I quote, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." End of quote. So when we conclude this year's celebration, I hope and I trust that you will be encouraged and motivated to do your part and to remember these additional words of challenge that he left with us. Again, I'm quoting Dr. King. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. Again, welcome to this special presentation.
Hello, Garner. This is Deborah Ross, your new Congresswoman, and it's so wonderful to be with you today on the Martin Luther King holiday. I wish I could be with you in person. I wish we all could be together in person, but the coronavirus is still with us, and we are working really hard to stem that virus and get us all back to school and to work safely. I just want you to know how honored I am to be your representative in Congress. I loved representing Garner when I was in the North Carolina General Assembly, and I've stayed very close to the community and campaigned there before we had the coronavirus and worked some of the polling sites and really enjoyed being with people. And I know that Garner is just a very, very special place. Garner is also a special place because you always have a wonderful Martin Luther King celebration. And I've attended in person several times in the past, and I know what work Helen Phillips put into it. I know that she passed this past year. I was at her visitation, and it's sad that we won't be able to hear from her, but we know that she's left a legacy of amazing people to carry on that tradition. This year is crucial for us to honor the memory of Martin Luther King Jr. and all of the work that he did to bring people together. We need more than ever leaders who will fight for justice and equality, but also who know how to build bridges and bring all people up. That is the legacy that he left, and that's a legacy that I would like to be part of carrying on. We need to, particularly during this pandemic, understand that many of our communities are struggling mightily, and they were struggling before the pandemic, struggling with economic equality, struggling with access to a quality education, struggling with affordable housing, and just getting their bills paid. And the pandemic has made things even worse. We also have a new light on racial justice, one that I've fought for my professional career, but also one that I believe our community and our nation need to recognize as we move forward. That was the leadership that Martin Luther King Jr. gave to us. He told the story of civil rights and how important civil rights are, not just to the African American community, but to all of our people. I'm thrilled to be with you today. I'm thrilled that you are commemorating his life and legacy and setting an example for how to be a community, how to be a caring community, how to lift everybody up. And I hope that you have a wonderful day today and that you honor his memory through your service, through your prayers, and through your commitment to making sure that we all have a brighter future. Have a wonderful day.
Good afternoon. I am Sherry Phillips. I am here to talk to you this afternoon about two prominent members of the town of Garner, one being my mom, Helen S. Phillips, and the other being the former mayor, Ronnie Williams. My mom, Helen S. Phillips, was born on January 15, 1927. She was always proud of the fact that she shared a birthday with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man she considered the greatest American who ever lived. Although Mom never got elected to public office, nor was she rich or famous, she was someone who was delighted in standing up for the rights of others and speaking the truth of power, and being a voice for many throughout the Garner community. Born a sharecropper's daughter, Mom lived during the time when African Americans were considered second-class citizens, or worse, less than human. She lived through Jim Crow, facing discrimination, racism, and then in the segregated Wake County. Mom was very active in local politics, and she made sure to make her opinions known. In an interview with the late Mayor Williams, when she was honored during the Black History Month, Mayor Williams told me that my mom would call him several times during the week, in which I knew she did because she and I lived together. He appreciated her motherly support, but mostly important, Mayor Williams praised my mom for her strong commitment to Garner, her citizen activism, and her willingness to persevere in her causes. She may not win every battle, but she's working hard toward winning the war, Williams always said. My mom married my dad, Graham G. Phillips, on March 4th, 1953. She was a mother of 8. She loved us and she reared us in a very strict home. My mom was very proud of the town of Garner. She attended many town council meetings to ensure that her voice was heard and that the voices of the citizens of the Garner were heard. My mom also loved gardening, which consisted of planting flowers, mowing the lawn, and ensuring each of her flowers were strategically placed. My mom and Mayor Williams had a very special relationship. The two of them would talk sometimes for hours on the phone about the town of Garner, about the things that are going on in the town of Garner and her concerns with the town of Garner. The two of them were very close and they had a lot of respect for one another. Mayor Williams served as mayor from 2005 until last December, when he was succeeded by current mayor Ken Marshburn. Before being elected, Mayor Williams had served for 20 years on Garner's Board of Aldermen. During the Garner natives' more than 3 decades of public service, the town blossomed from a sleepy community along a rail line to a dynamic, fast-growing suburb. Under Mayor Williams' leadership, Garner experienced a transformation that brought prosperity and opportunity while maintaining our town's unique charm and character. And now a tribute to my mother, Helen S. Phillips, and former Mayor Ronnie S. Williams.
You have long been known, even as I was growing up in Garner, I knew who Helen Phillips was because you made yourself become a community activist. Why?
I didn't know I was a community activist.
That's what they told me. I kept hearing your name. You remember this discussion we had about the sidewalks?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was after I realized I had made a mistake by not going on to school, getting an education. So I said, I got to do the next best thing. My mama said, if you're going to be a floor sweeper, sweep it good. And after I saw what was happening to Martin Luther King, and he died and got beat up so we could go and vote. So I said to myself, no matter what, I'm going to speak out for my people regardless.
You were instrumental and part of the committee that put together the Martin Luther King celebration.
Well,
Talk about that, and we won the front page of the New Observer for our ceremony this time.
Yeah.
Talk about that. And tell the viewers why it's important that we continue to do that.
because Martin Luther King, he was a God-sent man. And just like they did God back in the day, they stoned him, they hung him high, they pushed him in the side, and he died. And the third day he rose. Martin Luther King didn't rise, but he left his legacy here for us to follow. He paved the way for the minorities, and not only minorities, white people too. He wanted everybody to get along and try to understand each other. So I just think, a person asked me what I thought about it. Mr. Mayor, can I use your name? You asked me what I thought about it, and what did I tell you? You said, I told you, I said, Mr. Mayor, we will work with you the best we can. I said, do you know what you're getting yourself in? And so we've been working, and every one we have, it gets better and better.
I agree with you.
I'm here today to tell you you have a job. That job with it carries no paycheck, carries no benefits, and it carries no vacation. Your job is to continue the work of Dr. King and do it without violence, do it with compassion, love, and courage. That was his way. It included doing away with hate, segregation, injustice, and discrimination. It will require change. There's still work to be done. As we celebrate the work and the life of Dr. King, I'm reminded of taking a trip with kids in the back seat. And 30 minutes into that trip, one of the kids will ask, "Are we there yet?" That question is the theme of my brief remarks this afternoon. In terms of racial justice and equality, we have to ask ourselves, are we there yet?
I'm just before you today to tell you in the 21st century why we are still marching. The reality is we have not reached our destination until the senseless killing of our black men, women stop, until there's fairness where redistricting lines are drawn to benefit not just one political party, until there's fairness in the judicial system, until there's economy, work for the poor and just not the powerful and the wealthy, until racial profiling stops our ethnic young people. We will continue to march. In the words of the Black National Anthem, let us march on. Don't give up. March on till the victory is won.
In planning this year's celebration, the Town of Garner MLK Celebration Committee thought it wise to bring this year's event closer to home. While in the past, our main element of celebration has been featuring speakers both from within and outside of our region, this year we thought it vitally important to ask local leaders and ordinary citizens to share with us their insights, their assessment on how Garner is doing in promoting and pursuing the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and his dream. A dream where children of God of all ages might be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The long history of our nation tells us how urgent and vital and ongoing this work is, and especially this summer when names like Breonna and Ahmed and George became household names, we have learned again that this conversation about race and racism in our nation, in our community, is crucial. And so we have before you now a roundtable of ordinary Garner folks to talk and have this crucial conversation. The roundtable was recorded in November of 2020, moderated by Antoine and Melany Paden, who in their off time conduct a ministry called Faith Activated, which since this summer has had a series of conversations that they have hosted and posted on Facebook amongst people in this area talking about racial harmony and how we might come together in unity in this time. Joining the Padens are our Mayor, Ken Marshburn, Elaine Jenkins, a retired educator in Wake County, Reverend James Clanton, pastor of Wake Grove Baptist Church in Garner, and Peng Yueh, the architect and designer of the Veterans Memorial at Lake Benson Park. Their conversation lasted well over an hour, and so what you're about to see is about the first 20 minutes or so of that conversation. You can find a link to the full hour-plus roundtable in the video description below. We hope that you will watch this excerpt, and if you feel led, go and see the whole conversation, and that as you do so, you will be inspired and encouraged to join us in the next steps that Garner takes to pursue the dream that Dr. King had and that we all are working for.
One of the things that we thought about when we were asked to partner with the Town of Garner and the MLK Committee was how in the world do we add anything to what's already been said and done around Dr. King's dream. And so I said to my husband, we just got to keep it real. In today's climate, Dr. King is still seen as an African-American giant, a hero through his words and actions, moved and shaped modern America as we know it. And I know as a Black woman, and I know as a Black man, we are more than thankful to him. Our commitment as parents, as citizens, as friends, as a daughter, and as a son, and husband and wife, our commitment is to ensure that we keep that dream alive. So when Dr. King was speaking and he's giving out everything that was in him, it was Mahalia Jackson that hollered out, "Tell him about the dream." And so in the midst of what he had already prepared, he began to speak to folks and to share his heart about the dream that he envisioned. He envisioned this country being a place where all people were treated equal, where there were equal rights, where we were treated with civility, and every single person had an opportunity to be his or her best. And so tonight, we're going to talk to these good folks to see if we can get something out of them to speak to the state of the dream in Garner, right here in Garner.
Let me ask the first question. And the first question is, what is the state of Dr. King's dream here in Garner today? What is the state of Dr. King's dream here in Garner today? So again, we want your personal perspective on this, your feeling about where we are today here in Garner.
Okay, well, let me begin by thanking you, Antoine, and your good wife, Melanie. I met these folks several months ago. I forgot how long ago it was, but I can tell they have a heart for bringing people together and talking about significant issues that sometimes are contentious for people, but they have a way of facilitating those kinds of conversations. So I want to thank you for doing that.
Yes.
You know, that's a broad question, and I'll probably make most of my answers relate to what I think is what's happening in Garner. Obviously, it's a big country out there, and there are a lot of things going on in a lot of different places. But I've come to love the town of Garner. I moved here in '88 and got involved in elective office several years ago, and have the privilege now of serving as mayor. So I would begin by, before I answer the question directly, to thank the Martin Luther King Committee for the work that they have done really over the several years to keep the celebration alive that happens every year, and it's an annual event. And so I believe that, this kind of a discussion is an indication that, we as individuals see this as something that's important for us as individuals and also for our town.
Absolutely.
And so I believe the dream of Dr. King is alive, and I believe that our town is and has made progress as it relates to the specific area that Antoine mentioned. I'm thinking more about human relations and racial justice issues. And so I would be the first, though, to say that there is much yet to be done. A dream as broad and as comprehensive as his does not, you can't do justice to it just in a short period of time. Even though I know in his writings he talked about how sometimes the white man was slow to respond, even though they gave lip service. But at any rate, so I'm going to sort of justify or at least explain why I believe the town of Garner has made some significant progress, particularly as it relates to relationships and bringing people together.
Okay.
I'll cite probably 3 or 4 things, and then I'll try not to be too long-winded. Some of you may recall that several years ago when the federal government and the state government were looking at building the continuation of the I-540 route on around to the side of Garner, that there was discussion about having something called a red route. The red route became one of those very negative things to the people of Garner because it was going to run through some very important areas of our town, including some of our parks perhaps, and also through a church or two in various places. And so the then mayor, Ronnie Williams, suggested that, we have basically a community forum. And we got together in one church on one occasion, the First Presbyterian Church, I believe it was. And we had a large group of people from all races and all people come together. And we started strategizing and talking about that. And sort of to make that a short story, through a series of meetings and through contact with some of our state legislators and others, I think we finally convinced them that the red route just was not an appropriate route to take through Garner. And whether or not all of our fussing about that was the final nail in the coffin on the red route, we were just pleased that a decision after some environmental studies were done and so forth, that a decision was made not to send that crazy route through our town. So coming together with people for a common cause was a great thing. Then I would cite also that several years ago, our town decided to basically apply for status as an All-America city. We again brought a group of people together of different races and started talking about how we would do that. We flew about, I've forgotten how many it was, maybe 20 or so of us out to Denver, where you compete against other cities and towns across the United States. And we came away as one of the several designated as an All-America city, which was certainly a moment of pride. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we were just waiting for you to finish before we started bragging. Okay. It's like right here in Garner.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. And so obviously we still carry that term with pride. Again, it's it's not something that we rest on our laurels, but we have to go out each day and continue to make sure that we do the things that make us an all-America city. And then I would cite maybe just two other things. Our town for the last several years has put on an event called Relay for Life. It's a cancer raising organization. And I have seen that over the years just become something that has grown more and more. We have widespread participation in our town. It's a town for people to come together. We always have lots of people donating for the good cause. And so, again, another example of how we're trying to engage all of our citizens in a common cause. And I think that's great for our town. One other thing that I would mention, and this has been more recent in light of some things that have happened nationally, I'm proud to note that our police department, under the leadership of the former chief and under the leadership of the current chief, has something, I'm not sure this is the right term, but I call it pop-up meetings. They're barbershop sessions.
Yep.
I had the privilege of attending at least one of those. And of course, because of COVID-19, those aren't taking place anymore. But the idea is to get people together from the police department and going into African-American barbershops and having conversations. And I was amazed when I went in there, you know, the barbers are there working away, cutting hair, and people are talking. So again, another great way to bring people together and to have them talk about sensitive topics that perhaps they wouldn't otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Marshburn. We appreciate that. I'm gonna tell y'all a little quick story. When I moved here several years ago from Raleigh, I was teaching at a school here. I'm gonna tell y'all now, I said, Lord, this is a little white town. Where are we? I mean, it's a lot of me. Wherever I show up, I'm as black as I'm going to ever be. And I said, where are we? And so as a teacher, it's not that you're looking for someone to make you feel safe, but you always want to know that I'm in a place where I'm pouring into people that look like me. And so sure enough, I found my home at Avisboro Elementary School, fell in love with Garner, and thank the Lord, I've been here for numerous years. And I can tell you now, one of the things that my children and I will say is we've not had an issue being here. I'm not a token black anything. I am a mother who loves my children. I want them safe. I want them protected. And so when we witnessed George Floyd being murdered, I was calling the mayor. Dude called me back on a Saturday. I love being in a small town. You know you did. He called me back on a Saturday. I said, we need to meet. We need to know and understand the state and the health of Garner, where we live, where my children are. I need to know that they're safe, where our children are. We came together. We sat down for a face-to-face. And from that moment to this, I can tell you now that my children are able to say they know us here, not because they played at Parks and Recs, not because they went to schools here in Wake County, but because we are more focused on becoming an active part of the community that we live in, because a dream in our house is a dream that stays in our house. A dream that we share outside is one that's alive. So thank you for that, Mayor.
Yeah, I think Mayor Marshburn really just mentioned something that I was thinking, you know, even though we've come some ways, but there's still a long ways to go to having kind of equality for everyone. But I am very encouraged with the fact that our council is more diverse. You know, we have Councilman Vance and Councilman Dillinger, and you know, Ms. Behringer on the council. Having more diversity, I think it's important to having, you know, people who represent the town, you know, kind of the diversity of town is important, because once you have people who are diverse and who makes policy decisions, that diversity hopefully will lead to policies that are more equitable and more, you know, diverse to the community's needs. So I think, you know, from that perspective, I do think Garner is heading in the right direction. And also, I've lived here for 17 years, but when I first moved here, you know, being an Asian, it's a very small minority in the town, but I, like reflecting on what you said, I felt completely welcome. You know, it's just, I fell in love with the people here, very friendly, very supportive. So I, you know, my family has stayed for the last 17 years, and I really love living in this town because I think it has great people, the services are good, and you know, so it's a great place to raise a family.
Well, I love so far, you know, hearing from the mayor and hearing from Peng and the kind of the theme about diversity, because the mayor is talking about all these different things that the the city council and all that has done to kind of bring people together and make decisions, but with shared perspective. So it's not a monolithic approach to trying to decide what's best for this town. You're getting a viewpoint from different perspectives. And Mom Peng, she raised the same thing. She underscored that, you know, having a diverse council, when you go to make decisions that impact our city, you know, we're getting different perspectives, and having people of color, and I'll just go ahead and say it, having people of color on the council, you know, increasing that diversity gives you a diverse opinions, gives you diverse attitudes, gives you diverse input. So ultimately, the decisions you make won't impact just a section of people, but it really speaks to the mixture of people here. So I'm loving hearing that theme kind of pop up.
I certainly echo what Mayor said and what Mom Peng said. The diversity in Garner is great. It's a good town. It's a small town, but yes, we do have some ways to go. I want to, you know, you talked about, Antoine, the specific pieces within the dream. And as I thought about that and reflected upon on Garner and where we are, I looked at, first I want to say this, a lot of people miss the fact that when Dr. King gave his dream speech, he was not just talking about a dream for African Americans.
Right.
But he was talking about a dream for America, for the world. That is a dream that's universal. It's not just for any one group of people. But he saw the pain and the hurt in America that was taking place and said, and as he's dreaming of what America could be, or what the world could be if these pieces of the dream fell into place. And so it's important then that we consider what he said at the end. And I said, I'm just going to read it rather than try to keep it in my head. But let me read this. He said at the end of the dream, at the last piece, when he talked about his 4 little children, he said, this happens, and when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. But Dr. King, as I looked at it, I said, if we start at the end, he said free at last. Well, free from what? Free from the tyranny of any place where the powers that be restrict others just based on the color of their skin from being able to advance economically in the workplace. And so he's talking about that freedom, but again, he references, you know, Jews, Gentiles, Black men, white, you know, so he's talking about, he's including us all in the context of this is a dream for everyone. But he says something that I think that I want to make sure I highlight this as my piece here. Is he says that when we join together, and therein is where I see Garner is moving to a place where the communities are joining together, not just your subdivision, but I'm talking about the different communities within Garner, the police department, the fire department, you know, the governing body, the churches, the ecumenical community, the education community. I mean, all of these are communities that need to be joined together. And Dr. King said that word, join together. And the idea of that is to consider that when we are joined together, what happens to my brother that may live 2 streets over happens to me. Why? Because we're joined. We're not, and so it's not separate but equal, because that really doesn't play well. We found that out in history. But we are joined together. And I think Garner is moving in a direction of seeking to join together so that if you hurt, I hurt. If we succeed together. And so for me, as I look at the dream, it is still a dream unfulfilled, but it is not a dream that is not in progress. And in Garner, that dream is in progress.
Well, when I realized that I was going to be on the roundtable, and of course I knew it kind of belatedly, I figured that I've been teaching, but I've been teaching in Johnston County for 22 years. And I taught in Wake County for 5 years. I taught in South Carolina. I mean, it's 35 years of teaching, everything from 8th grade through sophomores in college. So, but I lived in Garner, and I've always loved living in Garner. And Mayor Marshburn will tell you that my husband and I have actively attended most of their meetings until we ended up going, you know, with COVID changes, because we care about Garner. And our 4 children went to school here. And I thought it was very important that I check in with some people in Garner, especially since we've been kind of hunkering down for the last 8 months. So I checked with my my family. I consider them my family too. The Nong family. Mary Maduke goes to my church, and she has 7 children altogether, but 3 are here. And her 2 boys, 2 of her sons definitely grew up in Garner. And so I asked Malik and Victor Nong to talk to me on Sunday, and I asked them if I could use their name, and they said yes. I said, "What's it like? You know, I come over here, I help your mom, we do things together, we're sisters in heart." I said, "But is it hard living in Garner? You know?" And they said, "No, we really enjoy being here, you know, as young Black men, and you know, they're dark skinned, they're Dinka crowd, they're very dark." And I said, "Does that matter?" And they said, "We've got friends here, we don't really have problems with that." And I said, "Well, that's good to hear, because over the years of teaching, I've found that I have at times become a protector for my Black students. And often they would come in and say, 'We want to get you next semester.' And I said, 'Well, why?' And they said, 'Because we know you have our back.' And they said, 'Not all the teachers do.' And I thought, well, my comment was, that's a sad statement. But I was really excited that they said Garner was a good place to be living. And then I also talked with Damien Dillinger, because Damien and I know each other pretty well. And he gave me some really good facts that I know, Mayor, you'll be pleased to hear too. He said, "I'm a data-driven person." So he said, when I moved here, it felt good here. And we've always thought it was good too. And he said, "But I looked at the data," and he said, "You start looking at where Black and whites are. In Raleigh, there's areas there, this is the Black side of town. Here's the other side. In some of the other cities towns I won't mention." But he said, if you take Garner's, it's speckled all over. There isn't a Black section. It is a good mixture of people. And I think he said, that's what's made me feel more welcome. Is it perfect? No, you're right. Because I mean, I've had to deal with, and like I said, I've had 2 different Black students live with me because of home circumstances after I finished teaching them, because it wasn't appropriate while I was teaching them. They came with us, one for a year and one for about 6 months. And when sometimes we go out, I could see when we went different places, they were treated differently. And I was treated differently because I was with them and because we were together.
I want to say something. I appreciate you being brave to lift up something we haven't even mentioned yet. Mayor Marshburn, you said a little bit about, you said it, but you didn't say it. White privilege is real.
Yes.
And I know you may not have asked for it when you were born. You didn't raise your hand and ask your mama to dub you with white privilege. I know you didn't, Elaine. Mayor, I know you didn't either. But it is important for us to understand that white privilege is real, but to use that privilege to support and to help someone else that may have just like you. I didn't raise my hand when I was born and say, well, I want to be dark skinned, big eyes and big lips and hips, right? Because I'm Black. I wanted people to see me for who I am. But I understand that there's power that I possess with this dark skin and with these big lips and with the eyes. I appreciate you, Elaine, for speaking about what seemed so unfortunate when you heard that statement, but then you making a commitment to always use what it is that you were born into to bless someone else, to help someone else. And that is what I love about where we are.
I hope you've been enjoying this year's virtual celebration of the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As you know, recent national events and the responses to them have compelled many Americans to take a fresh, more honest look at our country's past. One early result of these developments is that many communities are looking at ways to commemorate and celebrate Juneteenth, which is considered the African American Independence Day. Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. It marks the events of June 19, 1865, when Union troops landed in Galveston, Texas, and informed the enslaved people there that they were free, and that was more than 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. This past September, with Town Council agreement, I approved the formation of a committee made up of citizens and town staff and officials whose purpose is to research and explore how the town of Garner can facilitate the observation of Juneteenth in our community. Some of the committee members are here with me today. The committee has been conducting its work for the past several months. It has presented to the Town Council and soon hopes to be making presentations to the wider Garner community. In the short term, the committee intends to educate the public and raise awareness about the significance of Juneteenth. You can look for more information soon about the committee's ongoing efforts on the town's website and social media. I hope that you will support the work of the committee as it looks for ways in the coming years that Garner can commemorate and celebrate Juneteenth. And now let's get back to the MLK celebration.
Good afternoon. I am Wilma Dunstan, Secretary-Treasurer of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Annual Celebration Committee for the town of Garner. At the March on Washington in August 1963, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, Dr. King delivered one of the most famous and powerful speeches in the history of this nation and the world. To over 250,000 protesters, Dr. King spoke of a vision whereby this nation would rise and live up to the words in the preamble of the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. This eloquent speech was immediately recognized as a highlight of the successful protest and has endured as one of the signature moments of the civil rights movement. Here to do a dramatization of I Have a Dream is one of the co-chairs of the Annual Celebration Committee, Dwight Rodgers.
Go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a desert state sweltering with the heat of injustice and oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day the state of Alabama, whose governor lips are presently dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. We'll be transformed into a situation where the little black girls and boys will be able to join hands with the little white girls and boys and walk together as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley should be exalted, every hill and mountain will be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith which I return to the South. With this faith, we'll be able to hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jangling discourse of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we'll be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we'll be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country tears of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America's to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the hackneyed Alleghanies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the Calvacious peaks of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. When we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we'll be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black man and white man, Jews and Gentiles, Protestant Catholics, will be able to stand together and say, free at last, free at last.
Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Hi, I'm Jim Ferry, one of the members of the MLK Committee, and I have the high honor of introducing We Shall Overcome. The song We Shall Overcome was first sung in its modern version in 1945 in Charleston, South Carolina, during a tobacco workers' strike. Then later on in the late 50s and 60s, it became the theme, the anthem of the civil rights movement. I remember myself sitting around campfires singing this song in the 60s and being so inspired. Every year, every single year at our Garner MLK celebration, we have closed with We Shall Overcome. We get on the stage and we hold hands and we sway and we sing at the top of our lungs, the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King. So I invite you, wherever you are, to join with us and sing along with us that we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome.
someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, sinners, let's go down, let's go down. Don't you want to come down? Oh, sinners, let's go down, down in the river to pray. Down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the star